Hi, my name is Carrie Ray Barnum. I am the Executive Director of New Shelves Books, and I'm here for Free Advice Friday. They are every Friday where we get together to talk book marketing, publishing, and answer your questions live. You can join us by going to newshelves.com/FAF, or you can watch the replays on YouTube, which is simply youtube.com/newshelvesbooks. Today, we have some live questions as well as emailed in questions, which we're going to jump right into. The first question is from Pat, and Pat is asking if Facebook ads are effective for children's picture books. And Pat, yes, in fact, I think that Facebook ads are one of the most effective types of advertising for children's picture books. And there are two reasons for that. Number one, children's picture books aren't, of course, bought by children. They're typically bought by parents and grandparents. And that age demographic is the demographic that is currently using Facebook. So I do think that using Facebook ads, if you're targeting well, you want to target parents of, that's one of the options, the demographics is parents of, and then it's got an age range. So it's like parents of children 8 to 12, parents of children in pre-K. So they have these options. So you want to target those. And then you want to kind of get into the mind of those parents. What else might they be following or interested in on Facebook? So if you've got a children's picture book, maybe they're interested in Sesame Street. Maybe they're interested in, my kids are a little older, so I'm out of practice on what is trending in cartoons and things, but maybe it's Curious George, maybe it's Winnie the Pooh, but targeting these big things that they may be interested in and tying in and targeting to that. For grandparents, you want to think more about, okay, grandparents are slightly older. What might grandparents be following online? Something like AARP, senior discounts, senior nights, different things like that. And so you're targeting that. And what you want to do in your ads is you want to specifically target, not kids will love this book, great, but the things that parents typically care about. Help the child in your life learn to read. That's something parents and grandparents think about. Right now around Christmas, you can target that specifically. Give the gift of learning this year for Christmas, different things like that. And so that's what I would be doing. I do find them very effective. I have a book right now that there were no ads running, started running Facebook ads for this children's book. It's the only ads running. And as far as ranking goes on Amazon, this book was ranking in the millions, and now it's in the top, I think this morning it was 39,000, which obviously tells me it's selling books. I haven't been able to look at the exact sales numbers yet, but it's certainly selling. So I do think they're effective, and I do recommend Facebook ads for children's books. Oh, this is a big one. Amazon Kindle's terms and conditions say no multiple accounts. I have two different publishing companies, one for children and one for adult projects. I'm the sole proprietor, DBA for both. Can I have an account for each one, or does that count as multiple accounts? So that depends on a couple of things. And you're welcome to chat if you have answers. You're welcome to put it in the chat or type it in the Q&A if you'd like. But it's one account per person or business. So if each of your companies, if your children's book company and your adult company have separate DBA or LLC, if they're actually registered as a separate company and they have different EINs or tax number, then you can actually get a business account for each of those companies. Now, if you're publishing under one company, if you've got one company that you're publishing both sets of books under, then you should only have one account, and you should have the single account. And of course, you can publish different books under one single account. Simply that when you are registering, when you are if you're purchasing your own ISBNs, which I recommend, you would want to create two imprints in your Bowker account. One for your adult books, one for your children's books, and you would want to assign them appropriately. So when you are publishing on KDP, you can go ahead and put the publisher name for the appropriate publishing company is what I would do. So that's how it is. If you only have the one DBA, you should only have one account. If you have two different publishing companies and 2 different accounts, then you are well within your rights, because it's one account per tax number is kind of a good way to think of it. Yeah, if both names are registered as business entities, but they only have one bank account and one tax number, you should only have one account. Now, if you have a tax number that is your social security number, and then you have an EIN, you can have 2 accounts that way. But you are playing with fire a little bit when you're doing that. So, of course, I am not a CPA. I am not a lawyer. I cannot give you legal advice. I can only tell you what I understand according to Amazon's terms and conditions and what I've learned from them when I've talked to them directly. I had to throw that in there. You know I did. You're welcome. All right, let's see. Next question here. Whoops. Why do book copyright pages all look different? Is there no standard? Sure, the reason why they all look different is there are some standard elements, but it's design, so they are all different. And also keep in mind that the standards change from year to year. I mean, sometimes multiple times in the same year. Also keep in mind, copyright pages come from all over the world. So what is standard in the US may not be standard in Italy. It may not be standard in Mexico. So sometimes you'll see different copyright pages because of that. There are some standards on the copyright page. Of course, we want to say this title, whatever it is, copyrighted by your name. And then you want the little copyright sign with the year. So, I mean, that's very standard. As far as what else goes on there, this typically is where you're going to take the opportunity to say, this material may not be used except for short excerpts for reviews, anything. If there is something that is a legal disclaimer, oftentimes it'll go on the copyright. So for example, I have a client who has books that are they have a lot of legalese in there, and so they put right on their copyright page, I am not advising you as a lawyer, I am giving you information, but you should consult your lawyer. So that's oftentimes on there. Very common. Should have your ISBN of all formats on your copyright page, and the publisher information and contact information. If you have a PCIP, a publisher's catalog and publication block for libraries, that'll also go on your copyright page. But as far as the exact design, it's kind of art. So it's not standard. It's not where everything has to be the same, but those are the elements you'll typically see on a copyright page. Let's see, what is the best way to discount your books on Amazon since they don't allow you to give out coupons? So the way to discount your book on Amazon is simply to drop the price down. That's harder to do with the paperback because you know, the margins are not as large typically. But for your ebook, let's say you get a BookBub deal or you're running an ebook discount, you just physically go in, you set a new price and you drop it down and tell everybody it's lower. If it has not been lowered for more than 30 days, you'll often get the lowest price in 30 days banner from Amazon. It's red, so you'll see that sometimes. And I'm going to jump over to a couple of our emailed questions. Actually, this was just good information from Scott. A couple of weeks ago, we talked about Amazon attribution tags and how those are now being used on Amazon, which essentially means that you can go into your Amazon advertising account and you can create special links to track your book sales on Amazon from outside platforms. So you get a special link for your Facebook ads. So when you're running those, you use a special tagged link and you can track the clicks and the related sales on your Amazon ad account, which is amazing. People have been asking this for a long time. People were using affiliate links, but that's technically against the terms of Amazon. So this is a really nice asset to have. So those affiliate or the Amazon attribution links are awesome. And Scott was having a really hard time getting those downloaded And I figured out nothing. He figured out that what it was is if you have a pop-up blocker on, sometimes that will keep those links from downloading. So if you're having that problem, just disable your pop-up blocker and that should help you out there. And thank you, Scott, for sharing that with us. All right. And here is another great question about distribution. I'm getting ready to publish 2 audiobooks and would like to expand onto Audible. I'm thinking of setting up Ingram Spark first and then adding Kindle on KDP. These books are short, 40 to 50 pages. Is it typically suggested that you offer all forms of your book? And the answer is yes. Typically, the more formats you can put your book in, the better. If you can put your book into ebook, paperback, and audiobook, well, then you've got 3 chances to reach different readers. And if you only have paperback, there's a growing audience of people who are only listening to audiobooks, or a growing number of people who are only buying books on ebook. Now, sometimes if they really want that book, they're going to get a paperback, but it's becoming more and more common, especially as people are like embracing the tiny house movement and living in vans and RVs and all sorts of things, that they're trying to condense. Because if I can have my whole bookshelf on this instead of having a ton of books, well, that's a big value for a lot of people. So I do recommend, if you're going to publish, that you try to get all the formats in. And if you're doing audiobook is in many ways kind of the hardest or most time-consuming option. So if you're doing that, I do recommend at minimum, especially if your book's 40 to 50 pages, I recommend you put it into ebook format. That's fairly simple to do. And there are tools that you can do that. If you have a Word document, you can use something like Atticus. Atticus, of course, is the formatting tool from Dave Chesson. You do have to purchase it. It's a one-time license. But Atticus.io is highly recommended. You can format into paperback and into ebook really easily. I will say, if your manuscript is 40 to 50 pages, especially if it's 40 to 50 pages in Word, it's going to be very small when you format it. And you may not want to publish individual books in print that are that tiny. You may want to do a chapbook or a compilation. It's really up to you, but ebook especially, I think, is very easy. And then you can get your ebook published on KDP for Kindle. And what's so nice about that is then you can connect your Audible, because Audible does require that you have a print or ebook option in order to do Audible. Last I checked. So easy, quick solution, gives you more opportunity for readers, and highly, highly encouraged, especially because, as I said, that's one of the easier format options once you've already done your audiobook. But congratulations on all those new books. That is exciting. All right. And this question, I think it's Jeanne. I think I'm saying it right. If not, I apologize. But considering the crackdowns we're seeing with Amazon and social media too, how can an author protect herself or himself from and their books when using a pen name? We've heard nightmare stories of Amazon shutting down accounts because the author is using a pen name and needs to prove that it's their book content. Sometimes this happens, and we've seen it more and more, right? So we've seen Amazon really cracking down on accounts. Social media too, but we're seeing it more right now on Amazon, where Amazon is suspending accounts or terminating accounts, and they are just cutting it off because they're trying to crack down on people from stealing copyright and things like that. And so what do you do to protect yourself in that worst case scenario? And there are a couple of options of things that you can do, especially if you're using a pen name or multiple pen names. Number one, file a copyright for your book. Technically, as soon as you put that book out there, you've got the copyright signed, you have copyrighted your book in the United States, technically. However, you should still go ahead and file a copyright for your book. You can do it directly through the Copyright Office. It is not that expensive. I think the price did go up to, I want to say it was $65. but it's not too expensive. You can also, there's a tool in your Bowker account that you can do. So myidentifiers.com, if you have a Bowker account, you can do that. Thank you, Beth. 65 single title. So you can go ahead and do it that way. File a copyright. It's protection. I mean, it's just like anything else. You get insurance on your car. You get insurance on jewelry, all sorts of things. Go ahead and get your copyright filed. Have a official document that says, yes, this is yours. And I recommend that you do that. And then 85 for double entry at one time. That's good to know. Thanks. And then I do recommend that you create a DBA or a LLC to publish under. Especially if you are publishing multiple titles, if you are publishing under multiple names, anything like that, I recommend that you create a company, a DBA or LLC to publish under. And this will give you a level of protection, but it also gives you kind of a company name. And then what I recommend is that you create a contract between yourself as the pen name and the company. So let's say I'm publishing under Carrie Ray Barnum, and I'm also publishing under I don't know, Carrie Fern. I literally just looked at a fern plant. So Carrie Ray Barnum, and then I'm publishing under Carrie Fern as my pen name. So what I would do is I would set up a contract between myself and my company saying Carrie Ray Barnum, writing as Carrie Fern, has this is entering into a publishing contract with New Shelves Books for XYZ titles. It seems silly. You're literally writing a contract for yourself, between yourself, and signing off on both. Doesn't matter. I have seen this type of contract actually get a lot of things dropped on Amazon. So that's what I'd recommend. And you do want to make sure that you use your legal name, writing as, because when they go and say, well, we need an ID for Miss Fern, and they're going, there is no ID. I made this name up. You need to be able to say, well, it's Carrie Ray Barnum writing as Carrie Fern. So that is what I definitely recommend. You also want to make sure that whatever email you're using for Amazon is an email you are seeing and checking often. You do not want your old email from when you were 16 to be connected, and you don't see that very often, because many times, unless it's a direct termination, many times you'll get notifications first, you'll get emails from Amazon asking questions and things like that. So if you're not seeing those and you're waiting days or weeks to see and respond, it's going to escalate. So make sure that whatever you're using on Amazon is something you see often and you get regularly. And if they do reach out, respond quickly, and tell them, yes, I'd love to resolve this with you. What can I provide? And I think it's also important that as soon as you get any issue, if you can access your account, get into your account, hit the contact us button, and start a paper trail. While calling them is wonderful, there's not a paper trail that you can track. Either respond directly back. A lot of those help tickets you can reply back to, and you have a paper trail that way, or get into your account, the contact us button, so there is a paper trail of you trying to connect, trying to resolve issues, and that other reps can see. Because keep in mind, these people are not all in one office. You may talk to Tim on Tuesday, and on Wednesday you're talking to Linda, and then on Wednesday night you're talking to Rick, and you're just going to get frustrated because you're going to repeat yourself over and over. You're going to have to do that anyway, but at least if there's a paper trail, they can actually go back and read some of that. So I do recommend that. And then finally, if you are writing under a pen name, I highly encourage that you claim that pen name on Author Central. So when you're on Author Central, you can have, you have your main account. So you have to create your main account, and then you can create pen names. You can claim, I think it was up to 3 pen names last I checked. It may have expanded, but you can create pen names from that main account, and you can claim them. And as far as someone had asked, well, how do I know if I can claim that pen name? How do I know if it's an available pen name? Well, it's a name. You can publish under whatever name you want. If I wanted to, it would be highly suspect. I don't recommend it, but I could say my name's Kim Kardashian. I'm going to publish under this. I mean, someone with that much celebrity, I probably wouldn't want to mess with because you're asking for trouble. But as far as claiming your author name, it doesn't matter if someone else is writing under the same name. Yeah, I mean, do you know how many Tim Jones there are? Plenty of Tim Jones. That doesn't mean that the 15th Tim Jones has to make up a different name. They can still claim their book under their name. They just won't have the tag. So when you are going directly to Amazon, we couldn't all claim amazon.com/Tim Jones. There's obviously going to be some numbers or a middle initial, something in there, but you can absolutely claim your pen name once your book is published. And I recommend that you do that because that is just one more tie showing that you are the same person as your pen name and that it's all connected there. And that's something that because you claim a pen name, it's not something that the average person on Amazon can see if that's something you're worried about. I have some clients who write, I have one client who writes children's books and erotica. So definitely don't want any connection there. But when you claim your pen name through Author Central, the only people who can see that back end are the folks over at Amazon who can see your KDP account anyway. So don't worry about that. And then if you do get in a jam and you need, or you would like more information on how to set up financials in a way that would help keep you out of trouble, or you need legal help to help combat things or get out of trouble, I recommend you go to Authors Guild. Has a great resource of lawyers and CPAs and things and people who can advise you legally, which I cannot because I'm neither of those things. Authors Guild, great resource. The Alliance of Independent Authors, I can't recommend highly enough as far as resources. They have helped some authors fight terminations and suspensions when they weren't really valid, and IBPA as well, the Independent Book Publishers Association. There is a fee to join these places. It's relatively small and it's a lot of resource for you. And so I recommend if you're in a jam or you need some recommendations, go to these people. This is what they do. They're an alliance of authors and publishers. They're there to help you out and they've got some great resources. So I can't recommend those highly enough. If you have concerns about this type of thing, if you're looking for recommendations for a lawyer who specializes in this, a CPA or any legal professional like that. So highly, highly recommended. See, do readers prefer that authors read their own audiobooks? Is that a difficult process to figure out and set up? Well, it depends. Here's the thing with audiobooks. And by the way, I had an amazing interview with Nathan, who is an audiobook narrator, and that is going to go up. I've been under the weather and the kids have been, so I haven't been able to edit those videos, but we talk about all of this stuff and narrating and the process and what authors can expect and cost, and it's going to be amazing. I'm working. Hopefully over this weekend, I'll be able to edit some of those videos so I can start releasing them on YouTube. So if you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, go to youtube.com/NewShelvesBooks, hit the subscribe button, because if you're interested in audiobooks at all, you will want to listen to these videos. What I found so valuable is I've talked to people like Derek Depker, who talks about how to create your own audiobooks. I know the publisher side of it. I know a lot of different sides, but I've never had so much information from an audiobook narrator and their side of things. What makes it easier on them, how they can bring your characters to life, what makes them not want to work with you, all of these sorts of things. So I thought it was a lot of great information. I did actually talk to him for about 90 minutes. We were scheduled for 60 and he let me keep picking his brain. I probably could have gone a couple more hours. But to your question, Cher, about audiobooks, I think there are a couple things to consider. If you have a nonfiction book, oftentimes, if it's nonfiction or memoir, yes, sometimes your readers do want to hear your story in your voice because you are the backbone of that book and you bring it to life. However, that comes with caveats. You really have to be good at reading aloud. You have to be able to take the time and the effort. And if that is not your gift, let's be honest. Let's just be honest and let it go, because there are many things that you can do well, that I can do well. And there's some things that we're just not good at. If you are not good at reading aloud, if you do not have the voice for that, if you cannot teach yourself the pacing and that kind of thing, pay someone else to do it. I think, again, it's not so much yes or no. I think it's more of what's your time, what's your talent, and where is that best spent. And there are some people, again, who have voices that we've all heard those audiobooks, right? We're like, we hear the voice and it's like velvet. It is so good and we can't stop listening. And we have also heard those voices that squeak and they get too high and they go too fast and it drives us nuts. And that's not going to help you sell books. So be honest with yourself. If you are interested in learning how to do your own audiobooks, Derek Depker, again, has Audiobooks Made Easy, which is a course that teaches you how to record and publish your own audiobooks. And I think that's a great course. I will throw a link in there for that, or share. Of course, you can always just email me. So that's an option if you're kind of looking to learn how to do that. Derek's course is great, but also be honest with yourself. If it's not your gifting, then you can do royalty share through ACX. If you're on a tight budget, you can do Findaway Voices. There are a lot of different options as far as that goes, and what you can do to get your audiobook out there. Yeah. Cheryl saying, I'm glad I read my own nonfiction audiobook, but it was a lot of work. Most people say it takes 5 times or more what they thought it was going to take. Beth saying she reads her own books, but she was a radio announcer for many years. So I think, yeah, do you have a lot of accents? Do you need different voices? All the things. I'm dropping in a link for Audiobooks Made Easy from Derek Depker. It is an affiliate link. Use it if you want. If you don't, go to Audiobooks Made Easy, and that's just fine too. It's a great resource. I'll put it out there. And again, if you want to hear my interview with Nathan, you want those snippets, make sure that you subscribe to the YouTube channel, because I mean, he was just fantastic with being so generous with his information, which I appreciated so much. All right, Eileen, how do I, as an author, sell books directly from my website? How do I begin the process? And do I, as the author, ship my books directly to readers? Yes, so we have a couple of options when we're doing direct ship. You can either, if you're just starting out and you're kind of starting from the beginning, you can order author copies of your book. You can order 50 author copies of your book, have them at your house, put up a online shop where you are selling them online. Of course, you would want a website that has capabilities for that. And then you can simply put up a price, and when someone orders it, it comes to you. You are then responsible for shipping that book out in a reasonable amount of time and getting it out to your reader, which works if you're only selling a couple books a month, or depending on your time, you can certainly do that. You can ship out of your garage. The main things are, you need to make sure that you have the capability on your website for sales, and you need to make sure that you're going to be able to ship out in a timely manner, because if you take 2 weeks to ship something out, you're going to have some very unhappy customers, and we don't want that. It kind of, ruins the experience. Your other option is to do something like a Shopify. Shopify is drop shipping. So that is where you are actually setting up an online account. Then you've got a warehouse. So it's kind of seamless and it bypasses you. You're selling from your website. You have those opportunities, but it's going through a warehouse and it's kind of more automatic. So if you are selling a lot of books, that's an option. If you are looking to sell your ebooks or your audiobooks direct, BookFunnel actually has a like a widget that can do that for you, where you can put your audiobooks and your ebooks up for direct sales. It goes through BookFunnel and it kind of funnels through there. Once again, you could do something where if you've got an online shop, you can just put it up there and then have auto email delivery. You have options. For me, I think it really depends on the scale. How many books are you expecting to sell, and can you handle that? What processes do you need to automate to make sure that you can get that done? And is it realistic? Now, there are certainly values to direct fulfillment. Number one, you can do signed copies, which is amazing. You can actually sign those copies. Number two, you are collecting your customer information. And this is the big piece of direct fulfillment and direct sales that is of such value, is because when we sell a book through Amazon, we don't retain that customer information. That's why we try so hard to build our newsletter list and our email list, because that's our customer information. That's how we contact them. But Amazon, if I sell 1,000 books through Amazon, let's say maybe 10% click on my link and sign up for my newsletter because I'm going to give them a free short story. Great, I've got 10%, but I don't have the other 90%. If I was doing direct sales and I made 1,000 sales, I would have 1,000 customers to market to in the future. However, Amazon has a lot of traffic, especially today on Black Friday. I'm going to bet that they have millions of people on their website. They're bringing traffic to the site. So it's easier in some cases to make a sale. When I'm doing direct sales, I have to drive traffic to my own website, which can be done. You can run Facebook ads just like you could for an Amazon book. You could run Google ads. You can put it out in your newsletter. So there are ways to drive traffic to your website, but you have to do it, and it takes more effort. And also you have to build up trust, because one of the reasons why so many sales happen through Amazon, it's an easy checkout. People already have an account and they have built trust on their site that they will get their product, they're going to get it quickly, and if they need returns, it's going to be fairly easy. So there has been some trust built there that makes people comfortable buying there. Excuse me. If you have not done that, then you've got to do that on your own site. You've got to build that trust. You've got to build that ease of use. And so those are the things to consider, and you can do it. I've seen people do this beautifully. Pierre Ginty, who runs and owns Ginty Digital, does this. He has run most of his books. He sells poetry, by the way. He sells poetry, and he's done Shopify direct website. They fulfill everything. Guys, he's got like, I want to say he's got over like 15,000 reviews on Amazon, just to give you an idea of how much he sells. He has the poetry books, Her and Him, and they do very, very well. And that's what they specialize over at Ginty Digital, is to actually to help people set up direct sales and push traffic. But it's a process, it's work. So just keep in mind how much you think you're going to sell direct, and keep in mind also that, or is it just going to be up and available, or is it going to be something where you are actively trying to push sales direct through your website, and you're going to need to ramp up shipping and all of that possibility. And that's my biggest advice there, as far as just how to handle it and how to get started. You can get started very simply and very easily, but if it grows, you've got to have a plan in place to make sure that you can maintain customer satisfaction and quick shipping and all of that. And Chris here, I'm at Vegas. Hi, Chris. And he had a question about TikTok, because TikTok is a great place for nonfiction authors with a message, which Chris has. So Chris has 2 books. One is a leadership book, and one is a Christian journal of devotion. So he's kind of got this nonfiction vibe going on. He's got a message, obviously, which can do very well on TikTok. When we're talking about TikTok, typically romance authors are knocking it out of the park. Fantasy authors are doing very well. And nonfiction authors who are comfortable speaking, who have a message, who can build a platform on that message, are doing very well. And Chris's question was, with TikTok, since he's got a leadership book and then he's got a Christian devotional book, does he need 2 TikTok accounts? And as always, I have one of those answers that's like, well, it depends, because so many things in marketing do depend on your specific book and position, right? So if you have a leadership book that relies heavily on Christian principles and you have a Christian devotional, I think you can do one account, because your platform is overall going to be either Christian leadership, Christian living. You can manage that on one TikTok. But if they're separate, if it's very strong in leadership and it doesn't really mention those Christian principles, and then you've got a very Christian oriented focused devotional, then you need to separate those out, because leadership can touch many different religions, but your Christian books are typically going to call specifically to Christians. So I think that is important, that you realize that you have to know your platform, you have to know who your audience is and your overall message. So if you're nonfiction, before you get started on TikTok, before you get started on YouTube, I really recommend you sit down and you decide, what is your platform? What's your message and what's your brand? Is your brand Christian based? If so, then it kind of doesn't matter what nonfiction you're writing. I mean, to a point, your brand is the Christian basis. It is you and who you are, and you can fold in leadership into that. You can fold, corporate into that. You can fold, in some aspects, parenting, that kind of goes away from the other things. So it depends. But you need to know your platform so you know how you can expand it. And if you decide, yeah, actually my books could interlace because it's the same audience, one TikTok is fine. If, however, you decide, no, my leadership book is really separate, it could go for anyone looking to develop leadership skills, young professionals, college kids. I mean, it really stands on its own, and it doesn't so much involve the Christian values. And then my Christian books are very Christian focused. Obviously, if it's a Christian devotional, then I'd recommend you have two separate TikToks, because you've got two different platforms and messages. However, with that, I will say, I recommend that you pick whichever one is either the most popular or the most comfortable for you. One or the other. Maybe the one that's most comfortable for you is the most popular, but you pick one or the other and you start that first. Please do yourself a favor. Do not start two TikTok channels at once. You will be overwhelmed, and it's a lot. Keeping in mind that to get a TikTok started successfully, most experts, most people who have succeeded on TikTok recommend that you're posting 2 to 3 times per day, every day, for the first 3 to 6 months. That's a lot of content. That's a lot of connection. That's a lot of replying to comments. That is just a lot. And if you're multiplying that by 2, I won't say that. You're probably not going to do justice to either one. You're going to kind of half do both of them. So I'd recommend that you pick one or the other. You focus on that. You grow that. You learn from it. So when you go to the next account and you start building that platform, you can do that. And you can always take your existing platform and say, hey guys, I know I've been really focused on leadership and business growth, but I also have a Christian devotional. So if that's your thing, go follow me over there. If not, stay over here. It's going to be the same great content. Nothing's going to change. So you can kind of segue some of your audience over there if they're interested in that. And if they're not, cool. They're going to keep getting the same content, and you're going to have a different account for those Christian devotionals. So that is what I'd recommend as far as TikTok goes. I will say that I've seen TikTok do amazing things for nonfiction and all sorts of things. I have seen someone who focuses on like interviews for jobs. I've seen financials do really well on TikTok. I have seen people who talk about archery and hunting or all sorts of things do really well if that's what you're focused on, because people typically are looking to be there. They want to be entertained, or they want to learn something, and they want to learn it quickly because our attention spans are pea-sized now. So one or the other. I think it could be a great spot for you. Also, if you have longer form content, a lot of nonfiction authors, I will say Christian or romance authors who do really well on TikTok typically aren't on YouTube. They don't have long form content. But if you are a nonfiction author on TikTok, a lot of times you will also do very well on YouTube. So if you could take long form content, put it up on YouTube and break it down for TikTok, then you're building your platform in two places. And I think that's great. So hopefully that helps. But if you have follow-up questions or I wasn't clear on anything like that, feel free to drop it in the comments over here or the chat, or just do another Q&A, and I'm happy to answer that. Let's see. All right, we already answered that audiobook question. Great, I'm glad. Let me see. Oops, I know I have one more email. I was gonna get to it. I'm getting emails as I'm trying to find this email. Sorry, guys. All right. Oh no, I answered that one. Perfect. Can I explain how to get endorsements and the best way to use these? Yes. So when we talk about endorsements for a book, endorsements are essentially reviews or someone saying nice things about you or your book from professionals. So it is someone of note. When we're going after endorsements, we're typically going after other authors who have a well-known name in our genre or in general. We're going after professionals. So if I'm writing a book about mental health, I may ask for endorsements from other mental health professionals who are well known in their field. If I have a children's book, maybe I'm asking for endorsements or review from teachers or principals or pediatricians, people who actually have a platform that enables them to give, that people trust. That's what it is. People trust. Because if you're my pediatrician or you're a pediatrician and you're telling me this book is great for brain development, I'm probably going to trust you. So that's kind of what we're talking about when we talk about endorsements. And the difference between an endorsement and a reader review is a reader review is typically going to go up online. It's going to go on Goodreads or Amazon. It's going to go in the bottom of your book page. We need those, and those are awesome. But literally, anyone can give those. I could have no kids and say, this was the cutest children's book ever, highly recommended. And that's great. We need those. Those are very important. And it has been proven that those type of reviews do help you sell your books. However, they are not from an authority. So if I'm a pediatrician recommending your children's book, oftentimes these will be printed on the front cover of the book or the back of the book. We've all seen it. I was actually thinking, do I have a book right behind me that has one? Yeah, so, okay, so I have The Fifth Daughter of Thorn Ranch from Julia Brewer Daly. Yay, good book. And right here on the back, she has endorsements from two authors. She's got a New York Times and USA Today bestselling author, and she also has an award-winning author as well, who really has a lot of books set in Texas, which is where this book is set. Why do we care? Why does it matter, right? Well, it's because these people have built authority and a name for themselves, either through their sales or through their job, whatever it may be, so that we are borrowing their credibility. And that's why it matters, because sales are built on trust. Literally, it's proven. There's a lot of information that sales often are built on trust. And reviews, reader reviews, are a great way to build that trust, but also borrowing the credibility from other authors or experts or people who are in a position of authority in your topic is a great way to build trust. And that's why endorsements are important. So when I'm working with authors who are asking for endorsements, I typically recommend that you start by building a list, excuse me, in 3 categories. And in these 3 categories, I recommend that you list 5 to 10 names. People who are just well-known. Could be celebrities. It could, anyone who's just well-known. They've got a big name and you think they may be interested in your book. Let me caveat. Like if you have a children's book and you're like, hey, I want to go for Reese Witherspoon because she's now writing children's books. She's got kids. That's mine. So people of celebrity or who are well known. This could be Olympians. This could be athletes, someone who's just got a big audience and a well-known name. Then I recommend that you make a list of 5 to 10 people who are authors who write in your genre. So if you're a romance author, list 5 to 10 authors of people who write in your genre, ranging from, oh my God, if they gave me a review, I would freak, Nora Roberts, to, hey, this person is another indie and they're a comp author and I think they'd give me one and I think it'd be great. We're going to range. So we've got our big names, we've got our other authors, and then the people who have authority on that subject. A little bit harder for, let's say, romance authors, but if we have a children's book, pediatricians, nurses, principals, so sorry, you guys, principals, that kind of person. If we have a book on finances, well, maybe it's Dave Ramsey, maybe it's someone who is a CPA or someone who has authority in that space. And you build out this list of possible endorsements in typically 3 categories, 5 to 10 people. Then what you do is you research how to contact those people. It could be an email, it could be their agent, it could be through sorry, it's the most I've talked in a while, believe it or not. And so you're going to build up that list and how to reach them. Then what you do is you get your standard pitch together. Essentially, your pitch is going to be what your book is about, when it's coming out, and that you'd love for them to read it in consideration of a review or endorsement. So you have your basic pitch. Then what you're going to do is you're going to take that basic pitch and you are going to adjust it for each person. If I am writing a children's book and I am reaching out to the woman who wrote The Wonky Donkey, I would like her endorsement. Well, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, look, I thought The Wonky Donkey was fabulous. My kids and I read it a million times. We're in stitches. I love the joy that you brought to children everywhere. And that's my goal as an author. My new book, whatever it is coming out soon. It's about 1 sentence, your 1 pitch line. And so it's about that. And then I'm going to say, I would love if you would consider looking at my book and reviewing it. I understand if you can't, but I would absolutely love it. Would you be willing for me to send you a copy of the book? And I'm going to end it with a question. Why? I've said this before, is because we as humans, our knee-jerk reaction is that if someone asks a question and that's how they end a sentence or a conversation, our knee-jerk reaction is to respond, even if it's, I'm so sorry, I can't do that right now. I've got a lot of deadlines. We still want to end with a question. And that would typically be an email, because I can reach someone on email or Facebook Messenger or Twitter or something like that. And I'm going to leave that question open. I'm not just going to send them a book, because if I just send a book, chances are they're never going to look at it. But if I send them that question and they respond and say, oh, sure, I appreciate you reaching out. I would love to look at your book. Here's my address. Then I have an address to ship it to. Or if I'm sending it by email, now they're looking for that file. So you want to just reach out. And honestly, you're going to get a lot of no's. You're going to not get responses, all sorts of things. And that's okay. Because you know what? You miss every single basket you don't shoot for. And so you might as well shoot for them. It's not going to cost you anything except for a little bit of time and research. And I have seen people get big name endorsements from doing this. I have seen people get mentioned on social media because they did it. You never know unless you ask. So that's why we do an endorsement. That's why we reach out. That's why we ask. And it's just important that you've got your main pitch, your main idea that this is my 1-line pitch of the book. This is exactly what I'm asking for. This is when I'm asking you. Like, you want to have the basics out there, but then you want to personalize it for each person and why you're asking them. let them know this is not a copy and paste form letter. You literally look them up because, man, I'm writing a book about children succeeding in sports, and I know you do a lot of children's work, and I think it's really important. I've been inspired by you, and I hope other kids are inspired by this book. That's the kind of connection we want, because people respond to connection more than anything else. So that's kind of the basis of an endorsement and how you ask. And then how do you use it? You put it on your book cover. A lot of times you'll see it on the front of the book cover if it's a one-liner and it's a big name. You can use it in your marketing. You can use it in social media graphics. You can use it in so many different ways, because what you're doing is you're borrowing their either reach or credibility to build trust with your audience, to reach more people, to reach more readers, to potentially get more sales, and to make those readers or those people who are already trusting and following the other person to trust you and give your book a shot. And don't you have to pay thousands of dollars for them to read your book? There are some people who will, I've said this before, there are some people who are like, absolutely, I'll give you a review. That'll be $5,000. And they absolutely do that. There are some people who are like, I will only read your book if you give me $5,000, because that's what my time is worth, and I'll consider giving you a review. There are people who do that, and you can do that if you want, but there are also a lot of people who it's, if you connect with them, if you give them a reason to want to read your book, they'll just do it because they're nice people. There's a lot of really nice people out there. And if you can connect to their message, if you can make a personal connection with them, they're simply doing it because they want to, and you don't have to pay anything for it. So definitely out there. All right, I think I've got through most of the questions here today, and we're right at 11, and I need to go get some water. So I think we're good for today, you guys. Thank you for joining me. I know it's the day after Thanksgiving. I hope everyone has had a great weekend. New Shelves is closed until Monday. I hope everyone rests up, has a great time with family, and we will see you next week, Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern. Same time, same place. Bring your questions. Also, I do have a library webinar on request. There are quite a few people who said, absolutely, I would like a library or a webinar on how to sell your books to libraries. So if that is you, let me drop the link in, because I did set that up for next week. If you cannot attend live, I'd still recommend that you register, because you will end up getting a replay. So let me just drop this link in. Absolutely free. You guys asked, and I decided I'd just go ahead and do a webinar for selling to libraries. If you want in on that, click the link. If you are watching a replay and you would like to attend, email me, info@newshelves.com. I'll make sure you get the link. We'll give that to you free so you can learn more about selling directly to libraries. And otherwise, we'll see you next week, 10 a.m. Eastern. And thank you for being here. See you next time. Bye.